gentlemen, I'm calling the meeting to order now. That we have 4 council members. Madam Clerk, with the roll call, please reflect Vice Mayor Dina Glass's absence. Thank you. And if you will, please join me in the salute to the flag.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We have some changes to tonight's agenda that we need to deal with first thing. And one is an emergency add-on item, and I would like our city manager, city attorney to explain to us our process to add that to tonight's agenda.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Well, to add an item to tonight's agenda that's not on the agenda, the council need to make 2 findings. 1, that there's a need for immediate action, and 2, that the need for action didn't come to our attention until after the posting of the agenda. The vote to add the item would take a 4/5 vote of the council, so that would mean all 4 council members present right now would need to vote affirmatively to add the item.
And do you have the email related to that request?
Yes, I do.
And could you give it a name, the action item?
It is, well, the subject of the email is, please help protect Sonoma Clean Power from PG&E's 2016 exit fee spike. And the request is that the council email a letter to the California Public Utilities Commission by Thursday, December 17th to oppose PG&E's 2016 exit fee spike. Letter states their proposed 100% fee increase would critically harm the operational viability of Sonoma Clean Power and other community choice energy programs.
Thank you. So I believe there is a need for immediate action because of the deadline for that communication to the CPUC and their timeline of meetings. Also, the email came in over the weekend, I believe, after the posting of the agenda. So those would be the 2 findings, if we could have a motion to that effect to add this to the agenda.
I will make that motion, and if you would like, I can provide just a tiny bit of background on this item as the Sonoma Clean Power representative.
Thank you. I'll second that, and what we'll do is, after the vote, I'll place this on the agenda during the report section, after all the other items of business that we posted are taken care of.
Very good.
Thank you. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, then all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? That will carry 4-0, and we need the requirement to add that to the agenda. There are also 2 other changes tonight due to absences. Item number 8, this is a discussion and action for consideration of direction to staff regarding reprioritization of the capital improvement budget. It's taken off of the agenda because our staff member, Henry Micus, is ill this evening and not able to be here. So we won't move forward on that, and we'll postpone that hopefully to the January 5th meeting date. Also, at the request of our absent vice mayor, I'll take number 10 off the agenda. This is a discussion and appointment of members of the staff and the council to our assignments for the following year. All right, so we will deal with that one in the first meeting in January. That's it. So, let me assure you all, that means we're doing less work tonight. It doesn't mean we have more time for all the other business.
There you go.
Right? Yes, because I have to say our last meeting went till after 11, and it's far too exhausting for us to work a 5-hour meeting, many of us, after an 8 or 10-hour workday. So before we go on to proclamations and presentations, I want to make a very important announcement, because we have more people now here than at the end of the meeting. This concerns information I got through the SCTA, the bridge over the Laguna. That construction project will actually close the bridge Friday night at 10 p.m. until Saturday morning at 7 from Morris Street to Lana Road. So there will be access for local traffic only, and I asked our project manager at the SETA, did local mean everybody in Sebastopol who wants to go through that? He said, no, it's only the people who live from Morris Street to Lana Road that will be allowed to drive through there. In the middle night, they're recommending folks take Occidental Road. So I'm hoping that we all won't be too surprised when that happens to us. It's kind of a major event. Also, I'd like to thank my council colleagues for selecting me to be the mayor. I very much appreciate the opportunity. So, as our first item of business, I would like to bring up our fire chief, Bill Braga, to share with us the story of Jack Piccinini, who's here in our front row, as he receives 35-year service award from the city.
Thank you, Mayor, council, staff, and members of the public. I'm really excited tonight. Always am when I have an opportunity to show off a member of the fire department. You mentioned 35 years of service, incredible record for Jack Piccinini. In fact, Jack, if I could have you just stand up here for a second with me, thank you. Jack actually joined us 35 years ago in September of 1980. 35 years with us. But if I go back a few more years, he started with the Hessel Fire Department on Hessel Road at age 13. Pretty crazy. Age 13 dispatching, I think age 14 driving a fire engine. 15. At age 15 he's driving a fire engine for Hessel Fire. He's had an incredible career. He's a full-time battalion chief with the city of Santa Rosa. For us, for the last 35 years, he's been active on every new fire engine that we have purchased, doing the specs with a team of other firefighters. He's been involved with policy writing, procedure writing, just an incredible career, sitting on committees. And we are really, really excited to have Jack. He's a fire captain with Sebastopol Fire and a training officer. And the training officer piece of it, along with the fire captain, he has that responsibility to ensure that we are receiving the proper, adequate, and safe training. And when he has an engine company with a crew, he's responsible for that company. We're very fortunate to have Jack on the department. He was a recipient of our most prestigious award, Firefighter of the Year, in 2013. And there's one more piece that I want to share. What we've noticed in Jack over the last couple of years is another sparkle in his eye. Well, the first sparkle is his lovely wife, Jennifer, who is sitting in here. But the second sparkle that we've seen over the last couple of years is to see his youngest daughter, Gina, come up through the ranks of a probationary firefighter and now a regular firefighter for the Sebastopol Fire Department. So I would actually like to have Gina stand up next to Dad so everyone can see Gina and Dad. And again, we are so proud and so happy to have both Jack and Gina. But for Jack, congratulations on your 35 years of service with the Sebastopol Fire Department.
Well, thank you. It is an honor, and frankly, it hasn't been very hard to be a volunteer for 4 years in this organization. It's actually a great organization, and it's started to be a great organization years ago under when Fire Chief Russ Shura was the chief. And then that great leadership extended to John Zanzi and now currently Chief Braga. And that great leadership has really provided for a very healthy and a very motivating organization. And then I can't say enough about the volunteers that are here either. We look at each other as brothers and sisters in this organization, or father-daughter, or son and son. And so, there's a high level of esprit de corps and camaraderie, which again is very, very important and very, very valuable with regard to the organization being a very healthy, motivated, and motivating organization to be a part of. And then I can't, leave out the council members. Over the years, you know, we've needed facilities, we've needed good equipment, we've needed good training, and you know, historically speaking, the councils have all stepped up to ensure that we get what we want. And I can't make light of that. I think it's very, very important that we, it's absolutely critical that we be very well trained and very well equipped. And again, that's a big piece of that puzzle that helps to make this organization very healthy and very motivating. So it's been very easy to be a part of this organization, and a lot of little pieces of the puzzle come together to make that happen. So thank you very much.
We have some new room out front if people in the lobby would like to come forward and have a seat. Please do so. Our next presentation is a proclamation of the City Council recognizing Paula Downing for her work as the director of the Sebastopol Farmers Market. And Paula, you're back there in the corner. I wonder if you would kindly come forward as I read this for some attention. And then after I read this, I'd love for you to give some remarks if you'd be willing. Maybe. So Paula, this is for you. Whereas each city's farmers market has its own unique personality, where all things seem to fall perfectly together in a variety of produce, products, philosophy, and people. And whereas when you walk into the dappled shade of Sebastopol's downtown plaza, you get the feeling of walking into harmonious land filled with community, sharing, trades, and surprises. Whereas the Sebastopol Farmers Market is a year-round event where people love to come back each and every Sunday. And whereas Paula Downing has been responsible and instrumental in developing the Sebastopol Farmers Market and instrumental in encouraging local farmers and small producers to showcase their goods in the community who encourages shopping locally. And whereas Paula Downing, beyond organizing places for farmers to sell their products, has tirelessly sought to expand access to fresh foods for poor and economically disadvantaged families, and was successful in bringing CalFresh to the farmers market. Whereas after 23 years, working as the Sebastopol Certified Farmers Market Manager, Paula Downing will be stepping down, but not away from this local treasure. Now therefore be it resolved that the City Council of the City of Sebastopol recognizes Paula Downing for her work as the director of the Sebastopol Farmers Market and wishes Paula all the best in her next endeavors. With my hand and signature here, Paula, for you. Notice that didn't refer to retirement.
You didn't refer to what?
Retirement.
Oh, thank you. Well, I live here and eat at the market, so I'm probably not going to disappear totally. But I think the city has been, you've been great. All since the beginning, the city has been great and supportive of the market and helped us stay where we are and grow into a vibrant community where we are. When I started, there were 6 or maybe 8 farmers. There was no bread, no cheese, no meat, no prepared food. It was just a few farmers, and a good day was $50 or $100. And now the community has been so supportive that people are actually earning a living, making, growing produce and fruit. So I consider that a great, you know, contribution by everybody to make that happen, everyone who shops there. I had fun doing it. I wouldn't have gotten up at 5 o'clock on Sunday morning for the past 23 years if it wasn't a reward, and the reward is fun. The people are really fun. I feel honored to have been around all those crazy farmers. They're very crazy, just in case you know. They're very crazy. And totally creative and independent and wonderful to spend my time. So I feel really grateful for that part of my life. And I wonder if anything else is up.
Well, we're very grateful for that time of your life. Thank you so much for everything you've done.
Thank you.
So now we'll move on to public comment on items that are not on tonight's agenda. If people would like to speak on that, please come to the microphone if you would. It's very helpful if you will give us your name and your address in case any member of the council or staff wants to reach you to follow up. That's great to have in our records. So, any public comment tonight?
Yeah. You're gonna do one? Go first.
Somebody needs to go first. Thank you.
Good evening, Michael Karnacki, 385 Murphy Street. And last council meeting was December 2nd, and as you know, what happened on the 3rd, we had another mass shooting in California. And everybody saw the papers. We saw the headlines of everybody coming together and gathering, candlelight visuals, coming together, big outpouring in the community, coming together under grief and tragedy and loss and sorrow. So I want to bring just to the attention that High Noon is kind of an idea, that the underlying idea of High Noon is that we all take a moment once a week to celebrate the fact that we're all having a human experience in the county of Sonoma, in the city of Sebastopol, on planet Earth, and that we're all having this moment together, and to take a moment and to celebrate that fact, just to set aside our differences for a moment and to say hi to each other and wave. And I don't know how many of you actually participated in it, but it's really a good feeling. I mean, in my heart, it feels really good when you're waving to people in traffic and you're saying hi and they're waving back, and maybe they normally have a frown on their face, or they're driving by and they're waving, or the trucks are honking, and it's really a nice feeling. So I think that what I'm up here to suggest is that it would be nice to have some help with that and to try and expand it a little bit larger, and maybe move it to a Sunday, or to, you know, bring it before an informational item before the council, see if we can expand that so that it goes community-wide. And, you know, maybe it might take off a little bit more when everybody comes out of their houses, say at noon on Sundays, and we all wave to each other, say hi, and we all connect. And, you know, it not only is it good for building community, but it also, in each and every one of us, the oxytocin levels go up. You know, it adds for a more healthy community. Sicknesses go down. I mean, there's all kinds of studies that say they really can be beneficial to the community as a whole. So I'm hoping that sometime in the next year that we can maybe bring this to the forefront and have some real discussion about how maybe we can make this a bigger event and maybe spread it out where, you know, the news picks it up and say, wow, look what this little community is doing to build community. They're coming together under once a week as a moment of joy and happiness, and they're celebrating life rather than coming together as tragedy, because we know what will happen if we experience tragedy, and it's clear. We're all going to come together. So I'm saying let's do that under circumstances of happiness. So I don't know how to go about that, but maybe I should engage with the mayor or at some point and maybe get it on the agenda and see if we can go any farther. Thank you.
So right now, that's Fridays at noon.
Yes.
Every Friday at noon. Come on out. Hi. Okay, thank you.
Greetings, Colleen from Northern Street. Happy fall holidays, y'all. You see, totally PC. Okay, this is Dr. C, okay? T-shirt says, make art, not war. I'm here not just to wear it, but to do it. So I see life as art. Have I got your attention? Look, my neighbors, my old landlord, all kinds of good people in the audience tonight. I'm glad to see they are civically engaged. I come bearing gifts. So, your Christmas card, I'll leave a copy with Mary, put on your bulletin board, is a way for you to move from being treasonist to constitutionalist. Because you swore the oath, but we are still engaged in military, police, and our budget that is debt, federal, local, state. And you swore an oath to uphold and defend the Constitution, but you haven't. So, here's the recipe. There's a copy of what you swore the oath to, you know, Section 8, Article 1, and the recipe of what to do to get all these great rewards, to create peace. Not just proclaim it. So it just takes a proclamation, no, a resolution from you to annul Public Law 107243. The go-to unconstitutional war forever thing. We will never be safe from San Bernardino to Paris until we stop the policy that says we get to strike first without due process at home or abroad. And what the Attorney General did for the County of Sonoma, are they going to do that for Chicago as well? Turn a blind eye to the policies that say it's okay to kill kids. Now it's up to you, Mayor Gurney, to show up with your city manager. And now I have engaged Julie Combs from the City Council in Santa Rosa. So we have booked time. She's been hearing evidence, and you need to as well, so that we get justice in all the crimes of the Molinari family since 2009. And you're empowered to use your oath. So, Sir Walter Scott said, "Oh, what a tangled web we weave when first we practice to deceive." Now, are you ready to stop? Because when I moved to Norley Street, you know what I found? Someone created a little sculpture, Life as Art. It says, believe. And the work I've been doing as a consultant for all these years for various members of our community taught me to change what I believe to what I know. So don't believe you're honoring your oath and you're earning your pay and in what respect you're given. Show us. Okay? Thank you very much.
Thank you, and we'll get a copy of that from Mary.
Great.
Okay. Did anyone else want to address the council in public comment? There's just a few empty seats, not many, but if anybody wants to come, I'll look inside. There's room at the back wall as well. Anyone else wanting to make public comment? I don't see anybody coming forward. Then we'll move on to statements of a conflict of interest from any council member. Seeing none. We'll move to the consent calendar. There are 3 items on the consent calendar. Does any council member want to take something off consent? Any member of the public want to take an item off the consent calendar? So then let me read what these are, and then I'll look for a motion to approve. The first item is approval of the minutes of December 1st. The second item is approval and adoption of a resolution authorizing and approving the City of Sebastopol current pay rates and ranges. Item 3, approval of revised wayfinding sign program project proposal and approval of additional project funding from the Traffic Impact Fund. Is there a motion to approve the consent calendar?
So moved.
Moved by Councilmember Eater, and a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilmember Slater. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, that will carry. Those are items 1 through 3 on tonight's agenda, and item 4 is an informational presentation, an update to the council on our general plan process. I think we'll start with a report from our planning director.
Good evening. I think our consultant, Ben Ritchie, is in the audience? Lizzie?
Are you here? I've been looking for him and I don't see him.
Yeah, he might
I don't
have
see him
had
yet.
some freeway-related problems, so I'll just go ahead and provide the staff report. As the council is aware, the General Plan Advisory Committee, or GPAC, has been meeting for the last year or so. And this month, they had their 12th and final meeting and completed their policy direction on the formulation of a new general plan for Sebastopol. This puts us about halfway through our process. So the GPAC really worked well together. And I think devised an excellent general plan draft. The next step that we're moving into is kind of a check-in with the Planning Commission and City Council. What we're trying to do is, before we start work on the EIR and the formal draft general plan, is to see if this draft is on the right track from the council's perspective and the Planning Commission's perspective. Are there major policies that are proposed that perhaps are not consistent with what the council or commission wants to see? Are there things that are missing that are significant? So we're hoping not to get down into the weeds or do kind of editing in detail, but rather hit the high points of the policies. See if there are any major elements that are off track with the council and commission's policy vision. So we'll see how we do in that process. That's okay. We have 3 meetings scheduled on a planning commission nights. They're on January 12th, February 9th, and March 8th at 7 o'clock here in this room. And we're assuming that the mayor will chair those meetings. And that's basically the next key step. And then once we feel like the draft is in pretty solid shape, the consultant team will move into preparation of the formal draft plan and the EIR. And then there's a long public comment period, response to comments, and then it comes back to the Planning Commission for however many public hearings the commission needs to work its way through and make their recommendations on the general plan. And that's where additional public input, as well as, of course, commission massaging of changing of the draft can occur. Once the commission is done, the same process will happen with the city council. So these kind of check-in, hit the high points, initial meetings are by far not the last opportunity for input. And we are trying to stay on track and trying to get the general plan adopted under the current city council that started this process and finish it off basically a year from now. With that, I think I'll turn it over to Ben, and I think he has a few other remarks.
Mayor, council members, I would like to offer my deepest apologies for showing up late. It's entirely my fault and inexcusable, so I
Well,
apologize.
don't worry for a long time about it, because you were just right. You got here right after meetings started, and we're all fine with it.
I'm just that good, so
You're just that good.
that's my story. I'm sticking to it.
Catch your breath and catch us up on what's been going on.
All right. I have a quick handout. I have some extra copies for the public. I apologize I didn't print enough for everybody. There's a good group here, but we'll have it up on the website. But there's not really new information here, but I'll hand copies out to the council. So just a quick summary of the efforts we've gone through to date. I know you've been keeping abreast of the process, so I'll be concise, and I'm happy to answer any questions you have about the process. But we kicked this off in April and May of 2014 with a series of public visioning workshops. We had very good attendance. We did group activities. I see some very familiar faces from members of the public who attended those workshops. This gave us an opportunity to start to set the trajectory of the general plan update and identify key community priorities and issues. We followed that up with an existing conditions report that was published in August of 2014. It's a very detailed technical document covering everything from housing conditions to environmental issues, air quality conditions, lots of applicable regulations. It's going to be a key component of the environmental impact report as we move forward through the CEQA stage of the process. We prepared what we refer to as an issues and opportunities report. It was a living, growing document that evolved as we worked our way through the GPAC process. It helps to further refine the goals and policies that we were discussing with the GPAC and get them focused on some major policy issues. So it took some highlights from the existing conditions report, the visioning workshops. It has appendices with all of the public comments and information we got during the initial visioning, including 700 some odd responses to the online survey we did. So we provided written summaries of that and also tabulated the raw data. And so if people really want to delve in and see the exact types of comments we got, we have those typed up verbatim. As the council is aware, we completed the housing element in advance of the rest of the general plan. There are state schedules and guidelines tied to funding and your certification schedule. You did make it in under the deadline, which switches you to an 8-year update cycle instead of a 4 or 5-year update cycle. It will save you money and headache as you go forward. That was completed formally on March 30th of this year. The GPAC, they have been fantastic. We had our last GPAC meeting last week. I know the mayor was in attendance and said a few words. Can't speak highly enough about this group. They really found their footing. They really delved into the issues. I think it was a learning experience for the group, and by the end, their ability to think critically about topics that they weren't necessarily experts in or weren't necessarily on their radar at the start of the process, they did a fantastic job of thinking community-wide and really helping to craft a general plan that's going to serve the city well for decades to come. So I can't say enough about the GPAC. They were instrumental in creating the document we're going to be bringing before you and the Planning Commission over the next couple of months. What I'm in the process of doing right now is taking the input and direction from our final GPAC meeting. I will mention we went till 11:30 at night. They were rock stars. I think we put in 5.5 hours with a 10-minute cookie break from Cheetah Slow. Thank them very much. The Sugar Rush definitely helped us push through the evening. We're making final revisions to that. I'm committed to having that revised full draft of the general plan to you next week prior to Christmas. I'm hoping it'll be here in time for Christmas morning, hopefully prior. I'm committed to having it to you Tuesday or Wednesday. We'll print out nice hard copies for the City Council and the Planning Commission, and with all of our documents, it'll be up on the general plan update website. I don't want to downplay the input from the GPAC at the last meeting, but it wasn't a major change in direction from the preliminary draft that had gone out. So there were improvements, additions, revisions, corrections, but not a wholesale shift in direction. And I know that preliminary draft has been publicly available for the last month or so. We had a community open house workshop on November 19th. It was very well attended. It was very informal. It was an opportunity. I see familiar faces from the open house workshop. I gave a 10 or 15 minute intro discussion about the process, and then we just sort of broke up into groups. We had different stations with informational poster boards, and it was just a chance for one-on-one dialogue with members of the public. So lots of questions, lots of good input. I summarized that in the last GPAC meeting packet. So again, on the general plan update website, there's a summary, kind of the high points of the public input we received. Similar issues that were raised during the visioning process, and it was a chance for folks to delve a little deeper now that we had some draft products out on the street. So I think as Kenyon touched on, the primary steps forward in the immediate future are going to be in January, February, and March with these joint workshops with the City Council and Planning Commission. We are going to be tackling land use, circulation, and community character at the first meeting. These are some of the larger hot button topics. The intent behind this organization is to get the direction from the Commission and the Council on key issues related to the land use map and the circulation approach, which allows us to get the traffic study completed for the EIR, and that's really the linchpin for our EIR CEQA schedule. And our intention is to get direction on major policy issues, any substantive changes we need to make. We're not intending to drill down into wordsmithing policies during these workshops, but just really hit the critical high points on policy direction, things like urban growth boundary, growth management, land use map, some of those really core issues to the general plan. And then after March, our hope is that we have marching orders to make some final revisions to the public draft general plan, which we intend to get out in the late spring, accompanied by the full environmental impact report. So the general plan and EIR will go out for a minimum of a 45-day public review and comment period, after which we come back to you with additional hearings and opportunities to make revisions, look at the environmental analysis, and the final EIR. So I realize I've been talking fast and throwing a lot at you, but those are the high points I wanted to go over this evening, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Well, thank you, Ben. I do have a question, and perhaps other council members as well. I found your memo to us really helpful in your remark that we focus on policy issues and not get into the wordsmithing of all, the page-by-page wordsmithing. So I'm just curious, I mean, this one for January 12th has 4 points that you'd like us to consider. And I'm wondering if you have any other suggestions for how we might approach reading such a lengthy document and making sure that the community conversation at the public meeting is really productive.
Certainly. I imagine that each council member will have priorities that you feel are important. So as you look through the general plan, that's why we try to give you the entire document at once, but take bites of it as we do our review. So if you are passionate about the preservation of open space and aren't necessarily seeing enough of that in land use, there's also the conservation of open space element, so you can cross-reference and say, okay, well, they have addressed it, it's just not necessarily in this chapter. So I wanted you to have the benefit of the entire document in front of you rather than seeing it piecemeal, even though we're going to discuss it in chunks. The ones I've laid out are certainly not things, I wouldn't consider yourself limited to those topics by any stretch of the imagination. Those are just ones that we knew were major issues. Some of the primary concerns we've heard are related to traffic congestion and safety in the downtown, because that relates to the circulation element. We've had some very robust discussions about the future makeup and character of downtown. Should it remain quiet? Should it remain, or should we emphasize having more vertical development that provides housing opportunities downtown? Can we make it more vibrant and lively and spur the local economy? So as you go through, I would keep in mind what you consider to be the important issues facing Sebastopol as you move forward. We feel comfortable that the range of issues raised by the public and by the GPAC are addressed in the general plan. The Issues and Opportunities report provides a summary of those issues, so if you want to delve more in depth to do your own audit to make sure that we're reflecting public concerns and comments adequately, the Issues and Opportunities report is a resource you can use in tandem as part of your general plan review. And at subsequent meetings, so at the end of the first meeting, I can provide some additional talking points or thought points for the subsequent meetings if you may want to focus your review on. But from a policy standpoint, really anything is fair game. Our hope is that by the time this goes public, the Planning Commission and the City Council are substantially comfortable with the content and the policy direction. And we're absolutely going to get public comments and you'll consider those, but my hope is that you feel good about where the document is before it goes out for public review and comment. So anything that's been burning in the back of your mind or something you want to really make sure we've hit on, these meetings are the time to bring those up.
Okay, well, that's helpful too. Let's see if there are any other questions for you from the council. Fellows, council members later, yeah.
The housing element required an EIR, correct?
The housing element did not require its own standalone EIR, so no, we had other CEQA compliance mechanisms for the housing element. The general plan is going to get a full-blown, robust EIR.
Yeah, so the question was related to if, I seem to remember, is that historically what we've always had? I seem to remember back many years ago, I was on the Planning Commission, we had the previous update, or maybe 2 updates ago, of the housing element. I seem to remember that we went through an EIR process for that, or am I not remembering?
At least an initial study, negative declaration, and possibly an EIR.
Maybe that's what it was a neg deck.
Yeah.
Okay.
The thing I can add to that is that your housing element, what happens in some communities, you have to demonstrate adequate available sites to meet your housing allocation, and many communities find themselves in a position where they have to rezone or redesignate sites from one particular use to a housing use, which can yield an intensity of development greater than what was analyzed in your previous general plan. Sebastopol found itself in a position where your housing element did not warrant any rezones or changes in parcel designations to demonstrate that you had adequate sites. So we were able to say that adoption of the housing element for CEQA purposes was within the environmental umbrella and purview of your existing general plan, and the housing element in and of itself would not have environmental impacts based on these housing promotion policies.
It's all coming back to me. Thank you for the reminder. That's it, thank you.
Councilmember Jacob, any questions? No? Would anyone from the public like to speak on this item? This is an informational update on our general plan process and our future meeting schedule.
It's backwards? Okay. The Lorax was reminding me that no one invited the trees to the general plan update. It was hard for them to get there. You know, they're kind of grounded. And they're, grateful that you have mindful policies about how they get taken down in the city. But we need to make incentives so that they get reused on site to help with erosion control and a few other things. And just because it is the holidays, they hate being sacrificed year after year for your holidays. Buy them with roots. And because I said this on KSR's Garden Talk, this great woman got a program going at the nurseries that if you can't have them replanted on site or in a container at your place, there should be a program for your general plan. The city should take it on as an issue, okay? So take notes, please. So the Lake County fire victims, where all those trees went away, well, the nurseries will help relocate these trees for Christmas, right? So spread it. Make part of your policies. Okay, this is a late update for your meetings. Thank you for hosting all those. Okay, so the trees are so sensitive to groundwater, surface and groundwater mismanagement. So they want you standing firm on making sure the county, state, federal government help out financially, go get those grants, et cetera, rework those policies so that we have a groundwater assessment in the West County. Not unlike the ones that were done in other places in the county, but they are giving away the farm to big ag in the West County in all kinds of ways without mindfulness. So in terms of the quantity and the quality, listen to the trees, right? Because they're going to tell you when it's not working good, and it might be our fire next time. So we want to start policies with homeowners association and homeowners, make it easy, get the money and matching funds so that they can do mindful rainwater on site, that they can do mindful composting on site instead of taking it away, right? That's the gas that's taking it away and going where? To places that are overburdened. So let's do all of water, composting, mindfulness of trees on site. Let's have little nurseries, for our carbon footprint, the exchanges, Instead of, we have, where I live, it used to be a Christmas tree farm right behind. This is about mindfulness too, and how you do density. It should have done a sound wall, multi-unit houses fighting behind a little tract mall, Fiesta Pacific. Should have put a sound wall in if you're going to. Oh yeah, so the trees say, don't grow out, grow up. Let your permits allow for that. And take your existing stock of moldy, toxic crap and do the mindful building. Help that industry in ways that are light on the land, the watershed, the water supply. Speaking of the water supply, we want you to stand firm, the trees are telling me, on food security instead of just putting all the eggs in one basket for big wine, for people to, be less mindful sometimes, okay? So take these words, use them well, and insist that the people running things around here start being mindful of the trees and the rest of us, right? Thank you very much.
Thank you for wrapping that up.
Hela Benedictista, Bodega Avenue. Again, I want to commend this group. They did some outstanding work. I was really privileged to attend every meeting, and I skimmed all of the work that they read in depth. They worked really quite well, and it's impressive what they did, but it isn't the end piece. It has just begun, and it comes with the work that everybody contributes to it, because that's what's going to make a great document. So those are some things that I really want to support, looking at revitalization / gentrification. We know gentrification is here, but we really need to get a handle on revitalization, because that's what our town needs. The woman that I have continued to leave out, and I really want to recognize, is the chair, which was Sue Kelly.
Linda. Sorry, Linda Kelly.
Linda Kelly, thank you.
I
Where
knew you wanted
this
that
is
right.
from. So thank you so much, because I've commended Ben, who is gifted. He's got a mind like an encyclopedia, only it's a galactic one. He is amazing. Kenyon is really a steady force. He knows so much, but you know what? He's one of those magnificent beings. He doesn't get in the way. He lets the group do the work. He supports, encourages, and guides a bit. So I just really want to say that the work that's been done is good. They have just begun. Please, everyone, keep your comments coming, because once the word gets written, it's like it's final. No, it has just begun, and we're all going to do it together. Thank you.
Thank you for those remarks. Did anyone else want to speak about the general plan, the draft, and the meeting schedule? Seeing no one come forward, then I would see if you guys want to say anything as a wrap-up. I think it's nice to have you complimented publicly like that from an observer and participant in the meeting. That's very important feedback for all of us. I know this council, along with our former Mayor Michael Kais, made a commitment to put the work in the community and let our community members handle it, rather than ourselves micromanaging that committee. We really left the responsibilities with them, and they've done an admirable job. Now it's back to us.
And if we can only do so well.
And if we can do so well, yeah, help us. Yeah, and we have reading over the holidays. Or should come with a bow on it or something, don't they?
I can likely do.
All right. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you, and I look forward to seeing you guys next month.
You'll do. Now, that's January 12th with the Planning Commission, the joint meeting.
Madam Mayor, if I may briefly, I got a question, and it may benefit the audience. The general plan update website is sebastopol.generalplan.org.
Everybody got that? Go there, do some reading. Help us out. We've got to get this, we're going to move this through the community. Okay. Alrighty, then we'll move on to item number 5 on our regular calendar agenda items. This is a discussion and action item regarding a resolution in support of Sonoma County action on cannabis policy by March 1st, 2016 state mandated deadline. And Councilmember Jacob is going to introduce this, I believe, but before we do that, I'm just wondering how many people are here for this item? Want to raise your hand? Yeah, I figured that's what most of you were here for. And how many people want to speak about it? Just so we have a sense of our timing. So maybe there are 10 or maybe like 10 or so people there. Okay, so that'll take a half hour to go on. But we'll give everyone a chance to address your remarks on this one. So, Councilmember Jacob, you lead us.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, for agendizing this item for this evening. I know I gave you short notice, and I appreciate your willingness to add this to the agenda. That being said, this evening, I know there's many advocates out here this evening who have many of the same comments, and clapping, the mayor usually tries to hold down a bit. But if you agree with somebody's comments, raising your hands and sort of shaking, saying hi, and letting everyone know that you agree is a great way. But really doing our best not to repeat comments. And public comment is 3 minutes, but just trying to be respectful of the council and the item. If you can take less than 3 minutes, it's always helpful. I believe there's a lot of support in the room, and the council will understand that. So anything we do to keep the meeting moving is greatly appreciated. I agendized this item because for nearly the last decade, I have been an advocate for medical cannabis patients. And a decade ago, this was a fight for persons living with cancer or AIDS or other chronic illnesses to find access to cannabis. This issue has developed over the last 10 years. And today, it's no longer a question on whether cannabis is a medicine. It's no longer a question on whether or not patients should have access. The question before local governments today is local economies, local farmers, medium and small-sized businesses, and honestly what I believe to be the fabric and foundation of Sonoma County's middle class. This is a discussion that nobody wants to talk about in Sonoma County. We want the cannabis to come to our dispensaries and get to patients, but we don't want to talk about how it gets there. We don't want to talk about where it's grown. We don't want to talk about how it's packaged, or how the joints are made, or where the brownies are made, or where the lollipops or lozenges are developed, or who's creating that packaging. We don't want to talk about the Press Democrats' estimated 150,000 immigrants who come to California for the economy of supporting their families, not just nationwide, but worldwide, from coming to California where there's a shortage of workforce to get the job done for the current needs of medical cannabis access. This resolution is about us recognizing those individuals. This resolution is about ensuring that the economy of medical cannabis and cannabis under adult use in the future stays within our local economies, within our local small families, and our local small farms. This resolution is about highlighting that issue, local and county government moving towards regulating this industry of people who are present in our everyday lives. And so with that, I guess I'll open it to questions. I believe there's quite a bit of